Hello everyone, my name is John, I'm the Geeky Fanboy, and welcome back to my channel. And today we're doing a big reading wrap up because I haven't really done a recent reads video at all yet, I think, in 2026. So I'm taking care of that now. So today I'm going to talk about every book I've read so far this year. I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible because some of those books I've reviewed on the channel already. Some of those books I still plan on reviewing on the channel. And also, as always, the disclaimer, I do write written reviews for almost everything I read over on my Goodreads and on my Storygraph. Links to those platforms are in the description down below if you want to follow me. Anyway, so yeah, today, big reading wrap up. It's probably going to take a while because I got like 30 plus things to get through. So let's get going. Oh, also, I do have most of these books, comics, or whatever in physical form. However, as you can see on the picture, I'm probably like putting on the screen right now, they're all on a big pile on my desk because I'm running out of space to put books and I didn't want to destroy the book tower. So I'm just going to put the covers on screen. Okay, we started the year with me catching up on some manhwa. So I read volume 2 and 3 of the manhwa Debut or Die, which I think I also mentioned in my wrap up video of 2025. It's a fun manhwa series that really just combines my like of like manga esque stuff and K pop stuff because it's about a man who suddenly wakes up in the body of a K-pop idol, like he gets isekai'd essentially, and then it's like you have 1 year to make your debut as a K-pop idol, and if you don't manage to do that, you will die. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's fun. It's a bit hard to keep track of all the characters, but I'm sort of enjoying sort of this isekai gamified version of running through a survival show to become a K-pop idol. So I think if, like me, your special interest at the moment is K-pop, and also you don't mind reading manga or manhwa, I think you're gonna have a fun time with that. Then the first book, I I did start reading it in 2025, but I finished it very early in January. Was Brigands and Bread Knives, which was the third book in the Legends and Lattes universe. With this one, I like it was all right, but I honestly didn't have as much of a fun time as I hoped I would because I really like Legends and Lattes and the prequel Bookshops and Bone Dust. I really like those two books, but with Brigands and Bread Knives, it wasn't bad. I think I gave it like 3.25 stars or something. It just wasn't that engaging or interesting to me as the other two books were. Like I like the main character as someone who we met in a previous book, and I liked seeing her go on an adventure. However, it all felt very disconnected. So I never really got on board with the overall story, with the overall adventure. I just wasn't really vibing with it. Like, we were constantly moving from place to place. It all felt very disconnected. So, like, it's still alright, but for me personally, this was more of a letdown compared to the other two books in the series. Next up, I read a book by an author I've already read two books from. I read Break Room by Li Mie, who wrote the Department of Dreams books that I don't remember the title of right now. Welcome to the Dream Department Store. I think it's the same author who wrote those two books, and Break Room was her new book after that. And it was a pretty short book, like it's more of a novella than an actual novel, which is sad because I actually thought the idea in that book was kind of funny because it's about like a game show where a bunch of people are invited to, and they're sort of put into this like fake work environment, and they basically all have to find out who is the most annoying colleague. Like, it's all about the people being sent there who have been voted as the most annoying colleague in the break room at their company or something, and one of them is like a mole. So they have to find out like who is the mole in this game show, and it just was a fun premise with some. It was very basic, like I said. The book is unfortunately too short. Like, I think if it had been longer, you could have developed this idea even further. But with the book being as short as it is, it doesn't really go in depth with the premise, or it's kind of the characters are all very like you can distinguish them from one another, but they're all very one note. They all sort of got their one shtick going, and the main character's just sort of trying to get through it, I guess. So I don't know. This is like a fun, quick read for in between, but maybe don't expect too much. Next up, we have Hunger by Che Jin-young, which is another Korean book, which I had actually been looking forward to reading because I had seen the cover for this book a while ago, and I just thought, oh, this book looks really, really cool. And the premise was very intriguing because it sort of has this dark romance, horror, bizarre vibe about a woman and a man who are since childhood days or since teenage days deeply, deeply in love, and they have this weird, kind of creepy relationship with one another. And then this is not a spoiler; it happens at the very beginning. The man in that relationship dies, and she sort of takes care of the body and also intends to consume him. So there's also a lot of stuff about how cannibalism is sort of like a symbol for their love, for like consummation and all that. And I really like the ideas behind that. However, again, similar to the one before that, the book itself is too short. Again, it's a very short book, and it's told from previous points in time. So this is not like a chronological timeline of their relationship. Like it starts off with like the man dying, then we sort of jump back to what was the woman's childhood like, and then we sort of jump ahead sometimes, and we jump back sometimes. So it's very disjointed, and occasionally we just got chapters where I was wondering, why am I even reading this part right now? How is this like relevant to the story? I just thought we were gonna do more with like this weird dark romance aspect, and cannibalism being the symbolism in this book. I just really wanted the book to do more, but then it just sort of suddenly ends. There is like no proper ending to it. It just, because it's so short, it just suddenly ends, and I was left wondering like, oh, we're done. Okay, but yeah, like it wasn't terrible. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars. It is interesting. I just, there was just potential for more. I also recently bought another book by the same author, which has sort of similar weird dark romance, but also apocalypse vibes. So I'm looking forward to that because I do think this author has some interesting ideas. So I want to see what they do with a different book. Next up, I'm quickly going to talk about two German books which came out quite recently. Um, in the series is called Synaptic Shadows. It's a queer YA series which I picked up because the setting was sort of more futuristic, cyberpunk esque, and it is a queer love story, and it's set in Korea. And my intent is to read more Korean literature or more literature that's set in Korea. So I was like, oh, this actually sounds kind of interesting. And I don't, even though I live in Germany, I don't really read that much German literature by German authors. So I was like, oh, cool! Like this is set in Korea. It's queer. It's written by two German authors. I'm gonna get into it, and it's all right. Like I do like the idea of the world building because there's sort of like it's set at this academy at the school, and we have these two boys from two very different backgrounds. Like one of us a bit more of an entitled rich kid bratty guy, and the other one is sort of very shy and doesn't come from a privileged background. And they both attend this school in Korea now, where they're basically taught how to control their powers, because this is a world where technology and nanobots and all that kind of stuff has a hint of magical realism, where it's sort of where there can be different powers that control sort of like robot aspects or electronic aspects in different ways. So some people can develop like different powers. And these two boys attend that school and learn about their powers, and it's like classic cyberpunk setting, big city, all the big corporations are in charge of the world now. It's not quite dystopia, but it's very much like, oh, we're being watched by the big corpos. We can't really do what we want. Money rules the world, and there's only shadow governments and stuff like that. So I read two books in that series. The third one is coming out in a few months, I think, and they're fine. Like nothing too special. there's just some time like it's all right, but there are like small bits about it where I was just dissatisfied with how the book was handling the world building, where I was like, oh, you could do more with that, or why did you do it in such a confusing way? Also, like the character relationships, because obviously about the two boys falling in love at some point, it's very slow burn, which I do appreciate. However, it's so slow burn that especially in the first book, there's like no hint at romance whatsoever, where you're like, okay, where's the queer romance I was promised? And then in the second book, the romance is there, but then it's gone again, and then there's like some stuff that happens that keeps them apart, and you're like, okay, we're not really doing that much romance stuff, which I usually wouldn't complain about, but it was one of the main reasons why I picked up these books. So, like, they were alright, but nah. Then on the list we have two Avatar: The Last Airbender comics. I read Ashes of the Academy, which is one of those shorter one-shot comics. It's set just a few years after the war, and now the Fire Academy is supposed to open up again. Zuko's younger sibling, is supposed to attend the school, which is probably sounding confusing if you haven't read the comics. This is the point where I tell you, please read the Avatar: Last Airbender comics, they're fun. So Zuko's younger sibling is supposed to attend that school. However, there's some stuff still going on with it. There are teachers at the school who were teaching back during the war times, during the bad times. So they're still trying to sort of infuse these kids with like Fire Nation propaganda, even though the war is over and Zuko's trying to stop that from happening. So he also asks May to help him with that, and May sort of becomes a teacher at the school. And I thought it was pretty neat. Like, I wish they could have done a bit more, because it's like, again, just one of those one-shot comics, but for the page time that they had, I had a lot of fun with it. I think it had some interesting aspects to it. Talks about the politics and the influences of like what all this Fire Nation propaganda and all this evil politics, what kind of influence they had on the people who lived in the Fire Nation. Now they sort of have to get rid of those bad things so they can teach those children properly. I thought that was quite interesting. So the one I read after that was The Lost Adventures, which is essentially just a cute collection of various little short stories that take place across like the Avatar universe during the span of the show. And it's all right. Like, it's a mixed bag. Some stories are not as good. Some stories are more fun. There's also different art styles. Some of them look really pretty. Some of them look really awful. It's a mixed bag. Like, it was all right. It was like sort of a 3.5 ish read. So nothing you have to read necessarily. Like, if you're an Avatar: Lost Airbender fan and like me, you're trying to get into all the comic books. Like, it's worth checking out, but don't expect too much. Then I read some books and mangas that I've already talked about on the channel. I read the Boys Love series Semantic Error. I reviewed the two light novels on the channel. I will link that video somewhere. And I also read the corresponding manhwa, like 4 volumes of that, I think. Yeah, I read 4 volumes, so not the entire story yet. I also watched the K-drama, which was quite fun. So yeah, go and check out that video. Overall impressions, like, it's a fun boys love story that starts off real fun. It has real good progression, and it's a true slow burn. It really takes its time to explore the feelings between the two characters. However, the second light novel then does just like a lot of stuff where I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, it just keeps going and going and going, where I'm like, shouldn't the story be done by now? It's just like, and it focuses a little, I know it's boys love, but it starts leaning way too much into only the physical aspects of the relationship, and it just does some narrative stuff where I was like, what the fuck are we doing here? Which, granted, could just be that those were bonus chapters in the original web novel. I don't know. It wasn't presented like that in the light novel that I bought. But yeah, I would definitely recommend the first volume. The first volume, I think, is really, really good. As someone who usually struggles with reading romance books, I had a good time with it. And also check out the K-drama. I think the K-drama takes all the best aspects of this the core story and puts it in a really fun, like, 2 hours or something of a K-drama, and it's really fun to watch. So yeah, go and check out Semantic Error. I finally finished a short story collection I had started way back in like I don't really know. Like, I think I started at the end of 2025 or the beginning of 2026, and it took me like 2 or 3 months to get through it. I read a short story collection of Father Brown stories, which I did because I really like the TV show. The TV show is number one comfort content for me. It's comfy crime. Me and my girlfriend, we love watching it. It's just a really fun, cozy crime show set in a little English village, and then we have a Catholic priest who solves crimes with his friends. So I love that TV show, and I was like, oh, let's just check out some of the original stories. And I've had this short story collection lying around for so long, and I finally decided to read it. And oh no, no, like just watch the show. You're not missing out on anything if you don't read the stories. It's not like they're terrible, but they're just really boring. I just lost so much interest. This is why it took me so long to get through the short story collection, because I was just so bored by a lot of these stories, and I just didn't want to read the next one because I was like, I don't really like. It's fun seeing where some of the original characters come from. However, also like basically only original characters you really care about are like Father Brown and Flambeau. Those are like the only two you really get from the stories. All the other ones you know from the show, not in the book, not in the story, so forget about that. Flambeau is quite different in the original books. Maybe check out the Wikipedia page to find out what's going on there, but you don't really need to bother with the short stories because they're not that interesting. Then I picked up a new manga series that I'm obsessed with. It has become one of my favorite manga series of all time, and it's called The Color of the End. So far, I have read 4 volumes of that series, I think. I'm waiting for the fifth volume to come out soon in a few months. And this is a beautiful, beautiful, utterly beautiful looking manga. It's set on an apocalyptic Earth. Humans no longer live on Earth because of a virus that has swept humanity because aliens were fighting humanity on Earth, and then essentially what is like an alien virus that is entirely deadly to all humans and spread across the planet like a wildfire, basically forced everyone to either die or leave the planet. And now the humans are sending a single android girl or young woman who's an android, sending her to Earth to see, hey, how is it going down there, essentially. And she travels across the planet. She takes care of the human bodies she finds and makes sure they get a good last goodbye in a proper, respectful way. And this is just basically a series of events of this android woman traveling across Earth, encountering the aliens that humanity fought, and encountering just interesting places, and also encountering the robots and the other androids that still do live on the planet, because it's sort of like in the future. So humanity had like robots, living robots they were working with, they had relationships with, they had friendships with, and those robots were obviously unaffected by the virus. So a lot of these robots are still alive. And so our main character encounters these other robots and hears about their stories, who the humans were they worked with, who they befriended, what their histories are. And so we get a lot of like flashback stories to humanity back in the day, or to what those robots have went through ever since humanity has vanished. And it's just a really melancholically beautiful manga. It's drawn absolutely. It looks gorgeous. I'm gonna try and put some pictures on screen so you get an idea of what this manga looks like. It looks so utterly gorgeous. Like just the way the ruins of these cities are drawn, the sceneries, just that there are panels in this manga where several times I was like flipping the page and I just looked at a panel for like a good minute because I just thought this looks so cool how this is drawn. And there were even one or two instances where I cried a bit, just because either because it looked so beautiful, or because the story was doing a lot of like stuff about like humanity, what it means to be human, and the stories of those robots that used to live with the humans. It's all very beautiful, but in a very melancholic way. So I don't even want to spoil too much what else happens. Just seriously go and read that manga series. It's really, really good. Then I read a book which I have also reviewed on the channel already. I read Holy Boy by Lee Hee-ju, which was a book about four crazy women kidnapping a K-pop idol. So I reviewed that book on the channel already because this is the lowest ranked book I've ever read. Like, this has an average rating of, at the moment, 2.61 on Goodreads. I think back when I read it, it had an average rating of 2.69, so it's gone down even further. And I was just so baffled by why this has such a low average rating, because personally, I thought it was alright. It was an interesting read. I think I gave it like 3.75 stars. So like, go and check out my review for that. I thought this was a really interesting book that I think was probably just advertised falsely in its English translation, which is why I think it has such a low average rating, because I think people were just expecting something way different and couldn't really get along with what this book was actually trying to do. Which I actually think the book has its flaws, definitely, but I also think the book was trying to do some really interesting stuff. So go and check out that. Go and check out that video where I reviewed that book about crazy K-pop fans, which, by the way, will not be the last book I read with that topic. Next book I read, I also reviewed on the channel. I read Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy, probably the most controversial book to come out this year. Again, I've reviewed this on the channel already. Go check out the video where I talk about my thoughts on it. I understand why this is a very controversial book, given the subject matter is about, you know, a sexual relationship between a teacher and his underage student. And I think a lot of people were not fully understanding, I think, what Jeanette McCurdy was doing with this book. Again, this is not a flawless book, but I think this is good in a way that Jeanette McCurdy doesn't pull any punches and tries to be as realistic as possible about such a type of story and such a type of topic to talk about. Definitely check out trigger warnings for this book, and yeah, if you want to hear more of my thoughts on it, go check out the video. Next book I also reviewed on the channel, Starsight by Alex Astor. Ooh, this book is still my nemesis, can you tell? I have so much pent up aggression about this book. There's like a 2-hour deep dive where I take this book apart. Please go and check that out. This is honestly the worst book I have ever read, I think. It's certainly up there. Are you thinking, oh, is this worse than Lightlark that the author wrote? Yes. Is this worse than Fourth Wing? Arguably, probably yes. So yeah, go and check that out. This book was horrible. It was the worst kind of romantasy book talk slop I have ever encountered. A book that has seen no editing whatsoever. No, for real, I can prove that. Go watch the video. Like, no, stay away from that book. It's the worst. I hate that stuff like this being put out there, that it's popular and then it gets praise, and just no. Nope. Starsight, nope. We're not doing that again. No. So let's go from the worst book I've read to probably the best book I've read so far that year. I read this back in May, June. I read Superfan by Jenny Tingle Zhang. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that name. And this is another one of those books about crazy K-pop fans, which, you know, I'm reading because I'm a K-pop fanboy, and I want to read books about K-pop and parasocial relationships and, you know, all that stuff, because I think that's really interesting. So I checked out that book, which I've been staring at my local bookshop for quite a while. So I eventually decided, yeah, come on, let's go into it. And it's about a young woman who at the very beginning of the book, encounters this new pop group. It's it's sort of like a little bit like a Cat's Eye situation, as in this is a group that's clearly modeled after K-pop, but comes out of the American market. Like it's a group that consists of mostly Korean or East Asian members. There's like one white guy, I think, and it's very clearly modeled to be a type of K-pop group, even though it comes out of and is meant for the American market. And our main character, Minnie, who is Asian American, she really gets into this group. And it starts as it always starts. She randomly clicks on a performance video, and then she's like, well, I'm just gonna go and watch some other stuff, and then maybe, oh, I'm gonna learn their names, and then it's too late when you start learning their names. So that's her POV, and the second POV, which I think is quite interesting, is one of the members from said K-pop group, who is actually Minnie's bias in that group. So that's the second POV, is that one member. So I like that we get the POV from the fan, also the POV from the idol in this idol system, who is becoming famous, who has to train, who is involved. So we get these parasocial relationship dynamics from both sides, so to speak, which I thought was really, really good, because a lot of these books about, K-pop or K-pop crazy fans or parasocial relationships usually are ever just written from the fan perspective, but never really from the idol's perspective. So I really like that about this book. I like that Minnie was a full-fledged character. Like, her being obsessed with this group wasn't her only character trait. She also had a bunch of other stuff going on. It's a bit of a not quite coming of age. Like, she starts university at the beginning of this book, and so she's sort of trying to like find her place in the world, so to speak, like trying to make new friends, but she's very shy, so she's having a hard time with it, sort of having first relationships, but also some really bad stuff happens there, so also check out trigger warnings for that, and stuff that really has a psychological impact on her. And then parallel to that, she also has like this parasocial relationship to this idol group that she's so into. And I like that this book really gets fandom. Like, this book really understands how fandom culture works. There's legit a page in this book which just looks like the cover of an AO3 fanfic. Like, with the couples, with the tags, with the rating, with the summary. I love that. It looks exactly like a screenshot out of AO3, where you just know, oh, this author knows what's going on. And, like, getting involved into fandom space, how it starts out, and then how it could potentially escalate into a bad place from there, where, you start sort of chatting on forums, and it's all quite normal, but then you get into the bit more weirder forums that are really, like, into stuff where you're like, oh no, this is happening for real, like our idols are in love and the company is keeping them apart and they're in love for real and we're trying to protect them. It shows a good progression from where you see how, oh, Minnie just starts out as a normal fan and this is fine and this is okay and you're allowed to have your sort of like cute little parasocial relationship fan stuff, but then it can also progress into something bad if you're not careful about it. I liked how it showed that there was a reasonable progression to Minnie's obsession with this group, which I quite like. And it wasn't framed as her being into this group in the first place is not a bad thing. Like, that's what I liked about it. And like I said, I like that the second POV from like the idol's point of view shows us what like his side of this whole parasocial stuff is like, that he has a bit of a traumatic past that he's not really allowed to talk about, that he has to sort of keep up this perfect image as the idol, but that he's not really happy with what is happening inside the industry, that he's struggling, that there's also a bit of there's also queer baiting, which I think is quite interesting, how that's an aspect in idol culture, especially like sort of, which I also like because that's more of an, especially also like an American, like a Western influence that they play around with that. I just think this was a really interesting book. Like, I really want to talk about it a bit more on the channel if I can. I just thought this book really nailed fandom culture. I like the POVs. And if, like me, you're interested in, like, K-pop culture, parasocial relationships, fandom culture, and all that, I think you will have a fun time with this book. Then I read a manga series that I also talked about on the channel while I recapped the K-drama. for it. I read The New Employee, also called The New Recruit. I read the manhwa for that, had 3 volumes. It was cute. Watch the video where I recap the entire K drama. It's just, the K drama for me is like the ultimate cozy comfort boys love K drama. And I want to see like what it's based on, so I read the manhwa. The manhwa is quite cute as well. Like, I like the couple. It's like this cute office romance with the new employee turning up there who's like in his late 20s, who's never really had a proper job. And then there's this slightly older guy who's like a couple of years older than him, who's the manager of the department. And they fall in love. And it's very cute. It's adorable. The manhwa is essentially the spicy version of the K drama because, it's a boys love manhwa. There's a there's there's some stuff happening. So yeah, I equally I enjoyed the manhwa. While I enjoyed the K drama a bit more, the manhwa was still fun. So if you don't want to watch a K drama but want to read the story instead, you can also check out the manhwa. Then I read a book by another Korean author. I read I Want to Die, but I Want to Eat Tteokbokki, which, relatable. That's a very relatable book title. And I think it's a book quite a lot of people have heard about. This is essentially the author reflecting on their depression, on their struggles with mental health, and essentially them recapping their sessions with their therapist. So large parts of this book are just like recaps of therapy sessions where I read the dialogue between the author and their therapist. And occasionally there are like interjections where the author sort of reflects on what they're going through. And this was alright. Like, it wasn't anything special. Like, it was mildly interesting, and it also like relatable as someone who also struggles with mental health stuff. But this didn't really bring anything special or new to the table. Like, you're reading therapy conversations about topics that you've probably already thought about yourself if you struggle with mental health. And this isn't like supposed to be like a self-help book, I guess. It doesn't read like one. I think you're gonna enjoy this book if you're really just looking for something to relate to. If you face similar struggles, but don't expect too much. Like, it's alright, but it's nothing too in depth. I read some more manga. I've been picking up a lot of Detective Conan because I mean I've mentioned it a couple of times on the channel. I love Detective Conan. It's one of my absolute favorite comfort animes. I've watched it since I was a kid. That's how long I've known it, and now I've been trying to pick up like some volumes to read, and luckily there here in Germany we have not just the single volumes, but we also have like compilation volumes based on certain themes that comprise like several different stories from different volumes into a theme. So I read the summer edition, which, as you can guess, is all about summer at the beach when they're going on holiday trips and crime stuff happens. And I also read, well, well, I haven't quite finished yet, but almost, and also a collection of creepy cases, which has all the more like bloody and horror and creepy stuff. And I just love it. I love Detective Conan. It's just really comfortable. General premise: a 17-year-old boy gets shrunk to a 6-year-old boy because he was trying to take on the mafia. And the mafia gave him some poison. The poison turned him to a boy, and now this boy, in disguise, lives with his girlfriend, well, who was his girlfriend when he was 17. And this girlfriend's dad has a detective agency, and now he helps him solve cases because the dad is actually not that good of a detective. And then it's just classic crime stuff, with some really fun and interesting solutions. It's very formulaic, which I adore. Some cases are more interesting, some cases are a bit ridiculous. Sometimes there are annoying children Conan hangs out with because he's a kid now. But it's alright, and I had a lot of fun with reading these because I'm more familiar with the anime. I've never really read the manga, but it's fun to get into the manga now after having watched the anime for so long. So yeah, if you're looking for a wonderfully episodic crime story, please go and check out Detective Conan. I beg you, it's brilliant. One of the more recent mangas I read, I checked out because currently, as of right now, the moment of recording, there is a Japanese BL series going on that's called Duty First, Kiss Later, which is utterly adorable. And it's based on a manga, so I tried to track down a translation of it, and I think there's actually it is a fan translation. I don't think it's an official translation. There's a fan translation in English of the original one-shot manga, and I read that, and it was really cute. It was adorable. So the general premise of this is set in like a small town in Japan at a police station, and the main couple is a an older guy. He's like 38, in his late 30s, who everyone likes. Like, he's good with everyone. He's good with the kids. He's good with the animals. He's just all around. Everyone thinks he's like a really nice guy. And there's a younger man who's 10 years younger than him, in his late 20s, who's sort of like this up and coming, really cool, bit cold and reserved policeman who also works at the police station with him. And the relationship development is between these two guys, because the younger guy actually has a crush on the older one, and the older one isn't quite sure how to feel about that, and he's sort of trying to figure out how much he's into this, and it's really cute. And I'm really enjoying the J drama that they are making at the moment. The Yeah, I'm just I'm just really into it because it's so cute. If you read the manga, if you can track it down, but also definitely go and watch the show. It's so cute. It has like all these elements I really like about these sort of more quiet, not too high budget productions. It's cozy, it's comfy. It takes its time to develop the characters and the relationship, and every time they like look at each other and they hold hands or make cute faces, you're like, oh my god, this is so adorable, and you want them to be in love. And I'm really into it. And the manga for it was just as cute. Let's move on with more actual books. We have a D&D related book. I finally read What Doesn't Break, which is another novel in the Critical Role universe, because my girlfriend has made a habit out of gifting me all the official Critical Role books on my birthday whenever there's a new one coming out. So this one, What Doesn't Break, is basically the prequel story to the character of Lordna from Campaign 3. To be honest, I haven't finished Campaign 3 yet, but I got into it far enough to get attached to some of these characters, and Lordna was actually one of my favorite character from Campaign 3. So I was glad that the book was gonna be about her. And essentially it just describes everything that has happened since her childhood days, how, what happened to her, how she died, how she was resurrected, and then all the voice that gets stuck in her head, and her relationship with that voice, and what happened essentially before she met Imogen for the first time. So we get all of that, and it's fine. Like, all of these critical role novels so far have been mostly okay. I didn't like the first one about the twins from Campaign 1. Then we had the one about Lucian from Campaign 2, which was better. I liked that one. And now we have this one, and again, it's alright. Like, none of these have been, like, banger books for me, but it's alright. Like, especially the first couple of chapters of this book are really good. They really lean into the horror aspect of Lordna's story and of her as a character. Like, some really good visceral horror stuff that I was really into. Then it lost me in the middle part because it was just like a series of events that I wasn't really interested in following. But then it sort of picks up again in the last third as Lordna meets an interesting character and builds a new interesting friendship / relationship with this character. And like, it was fine. It was alright. Like, nothing that really wowed me, but I did, like I said, I did like the vibes of it, and I liked Lordna as a character. I liked her characterization. I liked her relationship with the voice in her head and what they did with that. I just wish the story had been more engaging, like the overall plot had been just more interesting, because I definitely lost interest for a good like 100, at least 100 pages in the middle there. Like, if you're a Critical Role fan, I think this is worth checking out, and I think this is so far one of the better books that they've put out. So yeah, if you're a D&D fan, go and check it out. And I think I think you could also I think you could also check this out if you're not really into Critical Role, because since this is a prequel story to one of the characters, you can essentially get into this as well, I think. We got more books in the I read books about crazy K-pop fans thing. Maybe I want to do like a video where I review a bunch of books about crazy K-pop idols. Is that something I should do? I think that would be funny. So another book I read with that similar theme was Idol Burning by Rin Usami, which is it's quite a short novel. It's not really about K-pop. It's more about J-pop, but definitely similar vibes. And this was fine. Like it's really again, it's really just about a girl who gets really obsessed with this, who's really obsessed like with this J-pop idol. She's really into him, and then something happens to the idol, or he did something. He's accused of having done something bad, and of course that influences the parasocial relationship very heavily. And then we just read about this girl's like day-to-day business and how she feels about what happened to her idol and what she feels like is happening to her in her life. And that's it. Again, it's a very short book. Not a whole lot happens. Like, um, it doesn't really do anything new or interesting in regards to like writing about parasocial relationship, writing about K-pop, J-pop idols and like obsessions and all that. It doesn't really do anything new. So if like me, you're on a binge for like books with this theme, sure, go give it a read. It's a quick read, but you're not really missing out on anything. Okay, and then, which is the most recent book I finished, is YN, a novel by Esther Yi. I think this book is sort of infamous. I remember when this book came out, a lot of people were talking about it, even though at the time I didn't really know what it was about. But now being in the K-pop fandom culture, having read several YN fanfictions over the years, I feel like this book should be something for me. So this is again more of a shortish book, and it's about the narrator becoming obsessed with a K-pop idol, and she takes that obsession to some very big extremes, and she also starts writing a YN, a Your Name fan fiction. And so what she writes about in a fan fiction, what she does in real life, sort of gets blurred together and like blurs the lines a little bit. This is a weird book. Like, very weird. This is the type of book, when you get into it, I think you will either hate it or love it. Granted, I'm somewhere in between. I'm mostly confused. Like, this is written in a very particular way. Very pretentious, very flowery, very over the top. Personally, I think it is written like that purposefully so. Like, I don't, like, I think that there is a point to the narration style in this book. However, this is also written in a way where occasionally you're just wondering what is even happening right now. How do we get from point A to point B? What happened in between? What is going on right now? It was just very confusing. And this whole aspect of that the narrator starts writing a YN fan fiction, which sort of blurs the lines between what happens in real life, doesn't really get explored enough, in my opinion. Like, it is an aspect of the book, sure, but it doesn't turn up nearly as often as I would have liked, I think. Like, I wish there had been more to it. Also, there was just like never. I wasn't really like I was never really like fully invested in what was going on. I was just sort of reading the whole time, wondering like, where are we even going from here? It is a strange little book, and I wasn't really quite sure how to feel about it. Like oh my Goodreads, I didn't even manage to write a proper Goodreads review for it yet. I was just like, okay, this is like somewhere between 2 or 3 stars. I think I don't know. It's a weird book. People who have read this book, please do tell me down in the comments below what your thoughts are on it, because I think this is an interesting book to talk about. I just found it mostly baffling, not even necessarily in a bad way or in a good way, just baffling. Okay, that's the update as to what I'm currently reading. Because it's been a while since I finished a book. It's because I've been fighting my way through Korean high fantasy. I've been reading The Heart of the Naga from the Bird That Drinks Tears series, and I've been struggling through this book. Like I'm less than 100 pages away from finishing it, but I've been reading this book for like more than a month now, for like almost 2 months or something. And oh boy, this is a struggle to get through. This is just very dense, confusing, high fantasy. And you know what? I might talk about it in a separate video. Yeah, that's what I'm currently reading, with a bunch of other books already waiting for me, because reading books and buying books are two different hobbies. We all know how this goes. Okay, that's it for me for this very big and very quick update. I try to keep it as short as possible. Again, if you want more in-depth reviews for all these books, I linked all the videos I link all the videos where I've reviewed some of these books already down in the description below. And of course, you can also check out my Goodreads or my Story Graph, where there are written reviews for almost all of the books I just presented to you. So make sure you go and check those out if you want to hear more thoughts on those books. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, if you have any thoughts or opinions on the books I talked about, please put them down in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. You can also tell me what you're currently reading, what have been some reading highlights or reading flops that you've gone through this year already. Please do tell me down in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done already. And I'll see all of you very soon. Goodbye.